We're so excited to have you join us today for Food and Mood, Building a Healthy Relationship. And again, before we begin, if you haven't had a chance to enter our prize draw for the week, please give the QR code on the screen a scan and respond to the brief questionnaire. Each week this month, we will be doing a random draw for a wonderful prize provided by our sponsors. And this week's prize will be a one-night stay and breakfast at the Hilton in downtown Toronto. We will display this code again at the end of this session, and we'll post the link in the chat momentarily. So without further ado, Kenzie, please take it away.
Thank you so much. So yes, my name is Kenzie. I'm gonna start out as you are all coming in and scanning this QR code. I'm just gonna start out with a little introduction about myself. So I do have lived experience with anorexia nervosa. And my story through recovery is a little bit different than most. So I thought I would share it to as a little icebreaker and to share a little bit of myself and my story. So when I was diagnosed with anorexia at the time, I was in college in the States. And during this time, I decided to remove myself from school and come home for recovery. I was super fortunate because both my parents were doctors and they were able to take me in and take care of me for recovery. Now, during this time, my parents had some really unique and awesome ideas to help me reestablish a healthy relationship with food. And I'm going to share one story a little bit later, but I'll share this first story now. So, when I was a really young kid, I was always fascinated by the creativity of food. So, my mom and I would always be baking different kinds of cookies, decorating cakes. We did some literal cake decoration classes. And on the other hand, my dad and I would make burgers. So, cookies with my mom, burgers with my dad. The burgers were always unique flavors. We did maple bacon, we did mustard and ketchup, but inside the burger. We did a bunch of different things together. And so when I came home and I was in recovery for anorexia, I was really nervous to eat a lot of foods. So, what my parents decided to do was to challenge that creative side of me they knew was in there somewhere, and they just had to pull that out. So, what they did, I don't know, just show of hands, so just raise your hand if you've ever heard of the show Chopped on Food Network or Guys Grocery Games on Food Network. Anybody familiar with those? A couple people are familiar with those. Okay. If you're not, Chopped is basically this game played on the Food Network where chefs are given four random ingredients that they have to pair together to make a meal. So my parents thought it would be fun to try to encourage me to make meals with four different random ingredients, some that I was comfortable with at the time and some that I was not. And through this process, we would do it every week. I started to make these different meals. And during this time, it encouraged me to think of food in a completely different light. I wasn't so focused on the nutritional value or on my fear of food, but I was actually focused on how in the world am I going to put together chocolate, pork, and gummy worms and make it work into a somewhat edible meal. And so during this time, with every week that passed by, I got a little more excited to cook and to actually try some of the meals to see what I could do. And this was just the starting point to me building a healthier relationship with food. I was intrigued, I was excited, I looked forward to the next challenge, and it was really interesting to see my view of food change from one that was quite fearful to one that was actually excited and an opportunity to create something new. Since then, I went to culinary school. I graduated from culinary school and I became a member of the Canadian Association of Natural Nutrition Clinical Practitioners. I've been doing presentations for various recovery colleges around Ontario, as well as for the the Collaborative Learning College at CAMH. And over this time, I've just learned a lot more about food, about building a positive relationship with food, and various different strategies from those with lived experience, and also from various psychologists and people who are studying eating disorders. So, without further ado, we are going to be talking today about building a healthy relationship with food. And I'm super excited about this. But before we get started, I do want to go over just a few ground rules here that I would like to put in place. So food can be a sensitive topic for a lot of us. Let's just refrain from using specific numerical measures when you're sharing comments or asking questions. So for example, we'll just avoid the use of weight, grams, calories. I think any comment or question can be shared just the same without using those numbers. If you do want to ask questions throughout this presentation, please do so. I will do my best to get to all of them. Just type them in the chat, and again, I'll do my best to respond to them. If you do have private questions, please go right ahead and ask them by privately messaging me in the chat, or I am always open to answer questions through email. My email is quite simple. It is just my name at myname.com. So Kenzie Osborne at kenzieosborne.com. And you can definitely use that to get in contact with me after the session as well. Okay. So to start, you can go to menti.com and use the code 8404-9390 to join on to Menti. So if you do have a phone, I'm just going to give you a couple minutes to go and do that right now. So again, that's just going to www.menti.com and using that code. It is also accessible through your computer. And if you don't have access to either of those, then you can absolutely just pop your answers in the chat as well on through WebEx here. So what words come to your mind when you think of food? Give you a couple minutes to write some of your answers. Hungry. This may make you a little hungry this session. Delicious, yes. Two deliciouses, awesome. Family, absolutely. Calories, yes, that is a major relationship with food that we associate with. Celebration, we have yummy in the comments. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Gathering, ooh, I like that one. Gathering, family, work, nutrition and nutrients, culture. Ooh, I like culture. That's interesting. Colors, yes. Comfort, creativity, social, yes. That's actually really interesting. So there's a lot of connections between social health and mental health social health, well, and mental health and food as well. Almost always, when there is food, there is social activity. It's very common to be hand in hand, or vice versa. Umami. I love umami. Variety. Oh my goodness, so many more. Thanksgiving, health, restaurants. Oh my goodness, all these. Salt, night out, abundant, family, good and bad. I want you to hold on to that one. That's a very interesting one. Wine, snacks. Nice. Awesome. Okay. Thank you for those questions. Sorry, for all those answers. Great start to talking about food. So today we're going to talk a little bit about why our relationship with food is so special. We'll explore external factors that may affect our relationship with food and our bodies. We're going to explore good food, bad foods, and diet trends, disassociating food and personality traits, and finally, strategies for building a healthy and happy relationship with food and body image. So, our unique relationship with food. A really cool thing about food is that it is one of the only things in our life that actually stimulates all of our senses. So we can see the beautiful food on our plate. We can hear that crunch of the chip or the extra crispy fried chicken. Of course, we can taste everything. We can feel the textures in our mouth, and we can smell, as as we have in the comments here, smell the food from a mile away. Especially those tasty things like walking down by a bakery or by a cookie shop. You definitely are triggered and pulled in by that smell. We spend a lot of our time eating or preparing food. So, on average, 2 to 3 hours per day. North Americans, particularly, actually spend a lot less time than Europeans and Asian countries, which is interesting. But on average, about 2 to 3 hours per day, which does mean if our relationship with food is positive, that can make a positive experience for 2 to 3 hours a day. If it is negative, it can do the exact opposite, which is make a negative experience for 2 to 3 hours per day. Food is often associated with traditions. So, Chinese New Year, Christmas, Hanukkah, they all have Thanksgiving, which is coming up. They all have a relationship with food. It is also associated with culture, holidays, celebrations, and social events. So, what external factors may impact our relationship with food? So, when I talk about external factors, other than our internal thoughts, what are things from the outside that may impact our relationship with food? Peer pressure, social pressure, cost, curiosity with other cultures. Yeah. People's comments about the food, body image, availability, media, yes. Mood. Mood, I feel like that would be a little bit of an internal factor, but it definitely something that affects our relationship, yes. Stress, teachings, religious beliefs, magazine covers, so that kind of ties in with media. Um, Lack of cooking knowledge, for sure. Ease of access, money, expense, environment, upbringing, Instagram, the lovely Instagram, money, the setting. Yeah, these are all some really great questions, or really great comments here. Um, yeah. Absolutely. I'm seeing a lot of access to food, what's available, money, expense. I think it's really important to be teaching food literacy as well in terms of what's actually possible when some foods may not be accessible. What's possible when you may have a smaller budget. It's not something we'll dive into too much today, but it is certainly an important topic that I do think is really important. Inflation. Yes. My poor head of cabbage the other day was like $7. It's a sad moment. Convenience. Okay. Awesome. Great answers. Okay. So we're going to start out by talking as one of the pretty major external factors, which as you had all mentioned, the accessibility and money is certainly one of them, and one of the more major ones. And I think there it is a lot about education in terms of what is possible when food insecurity is present, or when foods may be expensive or out of budget to get. What can you do? That is really important, and maybe a topic for a next session. So right now we are going to talk a little bit about the food industry and media influences. So currently the health food industry, not even the food industry, the health food industry is worth approximately 841 billion US dollars, and it is expected to grow to 1 trillion in the next few years. It's a massive industry, a lot of money in it. A lot of times the food industry and the advertisements they use associate food with personality traits, with emotions, and with lifestyle. And this may be a good marketing tactic. So, if we didn't associate food with anything in our life, it may not have that much meaning to us. But as soon as we start associating food with our personality, with our emotions, with our lifestyle, then we start to have this stronger connection to it. For example, just a raise of hands here, has anyone ever seen some sort of advertisement that may show somebody eating a processed food or something like that and associating it with a lack of motivation or a lack of dedication? Or on the flip side, has anyone seen some sort of advertisement of someone eating a salad and being super dedicated or super motivated or having a successful life? Those are quite common marketing tactics to again associate those healthy foods or whatever is being sold with a particular lifestyle. In a similar manner, body types tend to be associated with personality traits. You see that in movies, in commercials, in TV shows, even on social media advertisements. And just in these last 2 years, specifically, the rise of social media during the pandemic may have also increased social media exposure and decreased time spent in actual real life. So, the prevalence of eating disorders through the pandemic has actually increased by 30%, likely due to two factors. One, eating disorders tend to thrive in isolation, and two, an increased amount of exposure to social media and decreased exposure to real in-person interactions. Okay, so a couple assumptions that we make in the food industry. So, good versus bad foods is one of the ones. So, this can definitely benefit different rivals in the food industry. So, for example, high fat versus low fat alternatives, plant based versus animal based alternatives. If someone deems something as good and someone deems something as bad, you are giving it a moral worth. And in doing so, if you consume the good food, you are then good. And if you, or you have done something good. If you consume the bad food, you have done something bad. And so it makes this association that food is associated with our worth, which is not true. Food cannot have moral worth. Food has a wide variety of purposes in our life, and we don't necessarily even need a purpose to have food. Food is just there, and we don't need to justify every time we have it. So, in terms of marketing, it can be beneficial because if, for example, a high fat food is deemed as bad and a low fat food is deemed as good, a food company can sell, this is lower fat, it's better for you, it is a good food because it is low in fat. And all that is just a marketing scheme to encourage you to buy more of that food. Okay, I have a couple comments here. Yes, it is exhausting, the challenges of food for sure. Yeah, so one day you can eat an egg and the next day you shouldn't. So things always change. There's always this competition within the food industry to sell you, this is what you should be eating. This will help you reach your goals. This is going to help you give you a dream lifestyle. Again, all this marketing tactic to ensure that you buy their product. Coke versus Diet Coke. Yes, so many examples. Healthy, all natural, or organic is better. I'm going to tell you a story here because this will shock me to this day. In culinary school, we were actually taught in our menu planning class to increase the price of a food if it contains a healthy, like a trending superfood. For example, at the time, the trending thing was cauliflower. It's still kind of trending, but cauliflower pizza. Um, we were told to specifically increase the price because we could, because it was a fad food, because it was a superfood. There's not really a reason for it. We were just increasing the price to, because it was something that people were willing to pay more for, which shocks me to this day that that was taught. And it is really sad. So when someone puts a claim on a product like healthy, like all natural, and sometimes I'll clarify this in a second, organic, those are not necessarily regulated terms. So they're not necessarily I guess there's not anything that has to be special about that product for them to have that label. Organic, a little different, but organic refers to the specific farming procedure, not to health. So organic is specifically towards how a product was farmed, not for nutritional value. However, whenever these terms are added to a product, generally speaking, they can increase the price that is that the product is sold for. Another myth in the food industry is that healthy food doesn't taste good or it's harder to make. And this is not necessarily true. I think this is where a lot of education comes into play as to what can you make when you don't have access to certain cooking equipment, when you would like to cook something quickly and easily, and how can you do that and make it taste good. The three things I always say that make a food taste good from a culinary perspective are fat, acid, and salt. So for example, if you're cooking a chicken breast, adding a bit of lemon juice, olive oil, and salt can really enhance the flavors. And so teaching people some aspects of how to make healthy food taste good is something that I think needs to be, taught a little bit more. When we assume that healthy food doesn't taste good, it does allow for some companies to mark up and sell tasty health foods or meal kits. So something that's really popular nowadays is meal delivery services that are a little bit healthier, that come pre-prepared meals. They are quite expensive, and there is something, that you can make at home that would be just as tasty. And lastly here, fad diets are healthy for everyone. So a one-size-fits-all approach is super appealing, especially when it comes to food. The reality is that fad diets do not work for everybody. How I like to describe a diet is that it is a strategy to help somebody overcome a challenge they are having. However, if you don't have the same challenge, that diet's not going to work for you. So it's kind of like if someone was doing one jigsaw puzzle and you were doing another one, and they were showing you how to solve their jigsaw puzzle. It doesn't really help you solve yours. If you have the same challenges, the same jigsaw puzzle, then it will help you. But if you have a different puzzle to solve, watching them solve theirs is not going to help you. And how I like to kind of describe this is that, for example, a keto diet may work for somebody, or may, and when I say work, I don't really like using that word, but may help somebody eat healthier if they find themselves eating a lot of higher refined carbohydrates, and they eat those very often. Then what the keto diet does is it encourages them to find alternatives to those highly processed refined carbohydrates. If someone doesn't eat a lot of refined carbohydrates and they go keto, it's probably not going to help them eat a healthier diet because that wasn't their challenge. Another example is intermittent fasting. If someone finds themselves eating a lot of highly processed foods late at night, then stopping eating at 6 p.m. may help them because they won't be eating those highly refined foods at night. However, if you're not someone who does that, then the intermittent fasting diet may not work. So fad diets are just ways to help solve challenges. That's all they are. And what works for one person will not work for another. Okay. Another little myth here in the food industry or health industry is if I eat a certain way, my lifestyle will change. I honestly saw a TikTok video the other day that was of this woman who started eating healthily, and then she suddenly got rich, married a nice man, and had an awesome family. Probably not an association there, But you'll see a lot of advertisements like that where they start eating a certain way and suddenly their lifestyle has changed. It is a great marketing tactic, again, in terms of if you eat the diet that I am selling you, then your life will change. But in terms of reality, that's probably not the case. You need to find what makes you feel best, what allows you to live the life that you want, and then work off that to use that to benefit your lifestyle. Did I miss anything? So, did I miss any other food assumptions that you can think of that are out there in the media? Anything that I didn't? There's a lot of them, so I probably missed a lot. But are there any other assumptions that you can think of that are made in the food industry? If not, then I'll keep on going. Maybe I hit all of them. I don't know. Okay. Um, Marketing to encourage general public to sway from other cultural foods. So this is um, uh, so in terms of cultural food, a lot of the I guess something that one specific workshop that I do with some students particularly is adapting the Canadian Food Guide to different cultures. So it is true that the Canadian Food Guide is based primarily on North American foods and doesn't really feature things like sushi or ramen or pasta or pizza. And all of those things can be a part of a balanced plate, they're just not represented. So I think that there is definitely some learning that can be done in terms of making sure that everyone from different cultures can understand what a healthy plate looks like using the foods that they're used to. I do have, so I am going to go forward here with exploring good foods, bad foods, and diet strategies. Okay. Um, so good versus bad foods. Why do we love it? We love to think in terms of black and white. So for example, if you're playing a sport, it's in or it's out. It's easy. You don't got to think about it anymore. It's done. So if we have foods that are good and foods that are bad, we can make decisions really fast. So they're easier to make. It's not as confusing. Imagine if a math teacher was like, sometimes 2 plus 2 equals 4, other times it's 6, at nights it's 8. It would be super confusing. So labeling foods into two discrete categories does make our life easier. The issue, foods don't have moral worth. And what are we talking about in terms of good and bad? Are we talking about taste? Are we talking about nutritional density? Are we talking about a party accompaniment? Is it something good to bring to a party? Is it a good celebration food? So there are so many different ways that you could categorize good or bad. And food is here for a lot of different reasons. One food that may, be great in terms of nutritional density may not be ideal for what you would want to bring to a party. Something that you would want to bring to a party may be great for a celebration, but it may not be great in terms of nutritional density. And that's okay. Food serves different purposes. And when it serves different purposes, we can use that in our life to better how our life is. So the bottom line is that good foods and bad foods, they don't exist. There are just foods that serve different purposes in our life and are there for different reasons. So fad diets. So I want to note the difference between fad diets and medical diets. Okay. So in terms of the difference here, we have diets that people will go on for a medical reason. For example, somebody who has diabetes, someone who has cancer, they may have to follow certain food recommendations to make sure they're getting the nutritional needs that their body requires given their medical condition. Another one to note, the keto diet has been used in people with epilepsy. So it's the specific way that that works is not understood super well, but the general thought is that someone who has epileptic seizures uses a pathway in their brain, the pathway that causes the seizure uses carbohydrates to kind of fire. If they, eliminate carbohydrates from their diet and they use fat, then their seizures may not occur because it's using a different pathway in their brain for that fuel. So again, there are certain diets that are needed for certain people for medical purposes. Then there are fad diets, which are this presumption that one diet is best for everybody. And that's just not true. That's not possible. It would be lovely if that was possible, but it's not. Another one in the group here, we have FODMAP for IBS. So FODMAP shouldn't be followed for a super long period of time because it's very restrictive, but it is used with people with IBS or other gut-related conditions to help identify what is causing the digestive discomfort, is essentially what it'll be used. Over the past 100 years, diets have cycled through low fat, high fat, and high protein. So actually, if you look from about 1880 till now, you'll see a cycle. It's actually a little bit humorous to look through. And I suggest you look through it and just search the history of diet. It is quite interesting. And we've almost gone through it so far. So we started, I guess in the early 1980s, we had low fat was the big trend. And then coming into the 2000s, we had high fat. There was a lot of hype around keto. And now we're moving a little bit into high protein. So everything seems to be high protein now. So we've kind of shifted through this cycle. I don't know. Are we going to get back into low fat? We'll see. But it does seem to go through a bit of a cycle. When in reality, the bottom line is more whole foods and more variety tends to be the best and tends to stay consistent around all diets. So fad diets here, almost every diet results in the same end product. So I talked about this already. Intermittent fasting may help someone if they tend to eat less healthy foods in excess at night. Keto may help someone if they eat a lot of high refined carbohydrate foods. And then plant-based may help someone adopt healthy eating patterns if they consume excess meat products. So a lot of meat products. The bottom line, diets can be a toolkit, and everyone does need a different tool to help them solve that challenge. All right, we're going to move on to disassociating food and personality traits. So there's assumed association between body type, dietary habits, and personality. So people with a healthy diet and this ultra fit body in TV shows, in commercials, in movies, they may be assumed to be dedicated, confident, have high self-worth, have a higher standard of living, that kind of thing. People with an unhealthy diet, again, quote unquote here, and an unfit body may be assumed to be lazy, unmotivated, kind of let loose, or have low self-worth and a lower standard of living. Just show of hands, has anyone seen any TV shows, any movies, any commercials that may demonstrate this association between body type or food intake and kind of living? A couple of you have seen this. Okay. It's quite common, used as particularly in TV shows and movies for sure. Okay. The Biggest Loser. That's a great example. Yes. I mean, it's all in the title there. Why might marketing tie food to personality and lifestyle? It makes it more meaningful. You develop more of an emotional connection with that food and your lifestyle. You may develop some feelings about yourself, some internal feelings about yourself. You may develop this idea that a particular food or a way of eating will change your life. I mean, even so, in addition to those TV shows and the movies, you can even think about the before and after photos that the industry will use. It's not just their body that changes, it's also the way they carry themselves, their smile, everything like that. And so it really makes this relationship that the way our body is or the way that we eat changes everything. And the reality is that it doesn't. And that, a diet or a tactic that someone is selling you is not going to lead to a suddenly different lifestyle. And it's hard to kind of step back and reflect upon that, but it's really important that we do. Yeah, even a different hairstyle, just everything's changed. So I'm gonna get into story number two. I just need to take a quick drink. Okay. So story number one was the chopped story. Story number two is my mirror story. And this is my favorite story of my recovery process. And when I was suffering from my anorexia, I really associated how I looked with my personal worth. I also associated what I ate with my personal worth, with who I was, with my personality, with how other people viewed me. Um, and my dad was, of course, trying to figure out a way for me to reestablish a healthy relationship with food and my body. So he decided to cover every single mirror in my house with brown paper. I am kidding you not, every single mirror in my house. My mom had some difficulties going to work in the morning, doing her hair and looking all nice. But that's okay. She dealt with it. For a month, every mirror in my entire house was covered with brown paper. And in my house, we happen to have four really large mirrors. And on each of those really large mirrors, there was a question. And every day, my dad and I walked around to each mirror and answered these questions. So the questions were, what do I like most about myself? And that was not to do with anything body image related. It was internally, what do I like most about myself? What am I most proud of doing today? Who is someone that inspires me today? And the last one was, in 5 years, where do I want to be? And I still have these mirrors to this day, not the legitimate mirrors, just the brown paper. And I had created this list of about 30, it was a month, so 30 answers to all of these questions. And with every day, it made me think, this is how food is going to help me live the life that I want. This is how nourishing my body is going to allow me to be the best version of me. And it also made me realize that the way I look and what other people perceive of me in terms of what I eat is not at all associated with who I am as a person. And so this was a really cool activity to do. And I don't recommend that you cover all your mirrors in your house. It does cause issues. I do, however, recommend that you challenge yourself to think of these questions. And I challenge you to think of how can food and enjoying different food and having this free, relationship with food, how can that support you in living the best life, living life the way that you really want to? And that means enjoying social occasions to the most, the best of your ability, supporting your mental health, supporting your physical health, supporting your social health. There's so many different areas of our wellness that food can assist with. And it's about trying to find this healing and freeing relationship with food so that you can do that. So we're going to go through an activity together. There's going to be 5 questions for you. I want you to think of them. If you want to write them down on a piece of paper, you can write them down on the piece of paper. If you want to share your answers through the WebEx chat, you can do that, or you can share through Menti. If you want to share through the WebEx chat, but you want to do it anonymously, just send me a private message and I can respond. So I'll give you a couple minutes to think of this one. So how can food help you achieve your goals? Or how can nourishing your body? Supply energy for the day. Yes, making sure that you have all the energy to talk to people, to do the tasks that you like doing, to play with your kids, maybe. Better sleep. Yes, absolutely. Health, overall health, strength. Carry all those grocery bags in one in one go. Energy to work out. Yeah. I mean, if you don't fuel your body, how can you expect your body to do more demanding tasks, right? Um, Overall health, yes. Energy and nutrition to get me through my day and life. Better mental energy, absolutely. Our brain uses a lot of calories every day to actually function properly. Need food for brain to work, eat the right foods to build muscle, provide a mindful moment, gratitude. Yes. So whenever and there was actually a study done, it was really interesting that for people who were suffering from mental health challenges, they were able to practice gratitude and showing their emotion through sharing a meal with somebody else. Because when someone shared a meal with them, it was, a chance for them to express their thanks, and it gave them an opportunity to show some emotion. Um, to have more energy and more active, brain healthy, satisfy indulgence. Yes. Enjoy, like have a good moment in life. Nourishment, provide a hobby I enjoy. Yes. Creating something new, baking, cooking, doing something with creativity for sure. Awareness and thankfulness for the variety of flavors, cooking, experience, and all other efforts for sure, like farming. Yes. Learn about the world and other cultures through food. Yes. Food is one of the ways, and so at one point during COVID, I was writing a blog of chefs from all around the world. So I interviewed chefs from over 35 different countries, and almost every chef that I spoke to said that the coolest thing they thought about food was that you can share a meal with anyone from around the world and build a connection regardless of what language you spoke. I thought that was one of the coolest things. And it's so true. You can sit down and have a meal with anybody, share that memory, and you don't even have to be speaking the same language. Um, Produce serotonin, so I'm not hangry. Yes. As a fun fact, the protein tryptophan actually is a precursor of serotonin. And so things like turkey, tuna, milk, and oats, they can help us produce serotonin. Experimental ingredients, yes, so like experimentation, try things that are new. Yeah, reminding us of our interdependence. These are all awesome ideas. I love it. Okay. Next question here. What does your body do to support you in your daily living? So, how does your body support you in doing what you need to do uh, to live your best life? Everything. That's a great answer. Absolutely everything. Very true. Allows me to get from place to place. Yes. Takes me where I need to go. Absolutely. Do my work. Yes. Helps me walk my dog. My dog's also like crazy energetic, so have to be kind of strong to do that. Allows me to perform. Yes. So much, but it doesn't get much credit. Absolutely. We need to care for our bodies, recognize all the amazing things that it's able to do, find motor skills for hobbies, creates odd noises that are funny to my teenage children. Love it. Yes. Experience pleasure for sure. Allows me to cater to my demanding daughter, fights off disease, connects with others for sure. Yeah. So many great answers here. Gives me the strength to move forward. Yeah. There's a lot of incredible things that our body does. on a daily basis that, as was mentioned, we may not give ourselves credit for. And so realizing what our body allows us to do is really something that's special. So, okay. How do foods serve different purposes in your life? So, what are some of the things that food may help you do? Nourishment, energy, yes. Connect with other people, connect with family, connect with friends, celebrate. Bring my family together, yes. A lot of family moments are facilitated by food, and food is almost like an initiator of conversation. Like when you go to meet somebody or when you go on a first date, usually, not all the time, obviously, but usually it's over a coffee or a meal. It almost just helps initiate that conversation. Yeah, so social life, gathering, hospitality, communication can cause anxiety. For a lot of people, food does cause anxiety for a lot of different reasons. So it's cool to be able to recognize that food is causing anxiety and try to address where is that anxiety coming from and what may be able to help me um, overcome that anxiety. uh, Connects to some good moments to remember. Yes. Those kind of remember when things. I think a lot of memories are built around food. A lot of them. And there's actually a specific reason for that. So, our hippocampus, which is a part of our memory storage in our brain, is actually connected to aromas and also to taste and sight. So, when we are, engaging in an eating experience, some of that is actually stored in our hippocampus as well. Connection to past generations. Yes. So, recipes that have been passed down. Food can be medicine for sure. Medicine for a lot of different things. Will your personality change as a result of changes in your diet or body shape? Will your actual personality change? About 100%. We're getting some yeses here. I think this is a tricky question. You may hope it doesn't, but it will. Energy would change, but I don't think personality would. Changes in diet may affect energy levels. I think so. The expression of our personality, maybe. So I think when we are living our best, um, our core personality wouldn't change. So who we truly are as a person, again, this is an opinion question. So in my opinion, who we truly are as a person wouldn't change. The way we express ourselves on the outside may change, so we may allow our personality to shine a bit more. We may be in a better mood. We may have more energy levels, but those things aren't our core personality. That's more how we are expressing ourselves to the outside world. Who we are as a person is still there. What we can do, our determination, our motivation, our life goals, our morals, our values, those won't change. Those won't suddenly just change on us. But what may change is, yes, the way in which we externally portray ourselves and how much our personality does shine. I think it's important, and I think it's a challenging thing in our society because there's always this connection. But to realize that who we are deep down inside is not connected to our body image, it's not connected to our diet. Again, when we are living our best life, nourishing ourselves, fueling ourselves with food, we may express that personality more, but I don't think it changes anything on the inside. but I think it's a good question to think about. All right. And lastly here, what foods provide you with the most energy, so leave you feeling energized for a long period of time, taste good, make you feel good mentally? What are some of those foods? For me, it's Greek yogurt, berries, and peanut butter. I can't get enough of it. So good. Coffee. Um, so coffee, interesting one. That actually just delays your fatigue. So it doesn't actually help us feel less fatigued. It just delays it. Just interesting. Tom yum soup. Love it. I don't know if I pronounced that correctly, but I had it for the first time in Thailand. Delicious. Julienne salad, apple with peanut butter, some fried rice, fruit and yogurt, homemade oatmeal loaf. That sounds good. I love baked oatmeal with peanut. Essentially, anything with peanut butter for me is going to be a win. Dal and rice. Yes, I actually did some culinary education in India, so I trained there for a little bit. Um, Turns out dal is one of the most challenging things to make. Some eggs and bacon, durian fruit, um, a great roasted vegetable soup. Nothing, I would love to have one. I challenge you to try a few new things. Maybe a few foods that you didn't try, that you haven't tried before. Um, what's haystack? Haystack with black beans. Never heard of that before. Goat curry, also a good one. Nuts. Steak with eggs. Gotta love it. Awesome. So a lot of these foods that are listed are whole foods that are rich in protein and in fat, with some whole carbohydrates in here as well. So usually the foods that provide us with the most energy and that taste the most delicious tend to be ones that are least processed and at least contain some fat in them. So fat in the culinary world is flavor. Um, Choosing mostly plant-based fats and also enjoying some animal-based fats is good. So having both kinds can be beneficial. Protein shake with fruit, lamb curry or barbecue lamb. Sounds good. Awesome. Thank you, everybody. Anything veggie related. If anyone's looking to try something new and loves sweet potatoes, I challenge you to try sweet potato fries with peanut butter. Maybe it's actually it's so good. Um, Funny story, I actually told this to my culinary teacher and he thought I was really weird, but tried it and he loved it. And for the rest of the years in culinary school, he was thankful that I tried it. Something to try today. Okay, so as we come to the end of this workshop today, I want to go over a couple of steps to building a healthy relationship with food. So step one, I think, understand what the health and food industry is interested in and what they're not interested in. The health food industry isn't really concerned about how healthy you are. They're about how much of this product can they sell to you. So understanding that a lot of their marketing tactics are going to be to try to get you to buy their product. After that, they don't really know what's happening. So they just want you to buy that. So being mindful of different marketing tactics that are used and identifying and recognizing that that's going on. Oops, I missed step two. Step two, recognize how food benefits your life. So it is there, yes, for your physical health, but it is also there for your mental health, for social interactions, as a form of creativity or an escape. So cooking for emotional health, for cultural celebrations, sometimes even for like spiritual health, as a meditative kind of activity. And then step three, notice how most fad diets work for some people because they help overcome a specific challenge. So the bottom line is that a healthy diet is usually one that features foods that are practical and enjoyable for your lifestyle, foods that are convenient for you, foods that serve a variety of purposes in your life, appropriate portion sizes, and a variety of foods from many different food groups. When it comes down to it, a healthy diet contains mostly whole foods, a wide variety, and lots of foods that are enjoyable, practical, and sustainable for you. From there, a healthy diet can be written up in a million different ways. It's just what works best for you. All right. Before we go, I have two last questions for you. So, if you think about this, what would a positive relationship with food look like to you? What might that look like? Balance, no anxiety when eating, eat what I want without guilt. So, yeah, recognizing that food is there for a lot of reasons in our life, it serves a lot of purposes. Healthy skin and hair, so just feeling, energized, having those warm and fuzzies on the inside. Not feeling like I have to eat something just because it's there. Continual openness to try new options, curiosity. One new food or one new food combination per day is a fun way to try and do that. Food that makes me smile. Enjoy food and having fun. Not thinking of certain foods as bad. I challenge you to think of when we think of good versus bad foods, generally in this industry, we're thinking of, does it have a lot of nutritional value or does it have little nutritional value? But we're not thinking of any other aspect that food could be providing us with. We're not thinking of any other benefit. So try thinking of, how is this food beneficial for me? Because a lot of foods are beneficial in some sort of way. Having more energy, feeling good about my food choices and noticing good health effects, more energy, not doing another fad diet to make myself feel better. Trying to find those foods that make you feel best in terms of, you feel energized, you don't feel hungry, you're not craving anything, you feel awesome and ready to tackle the day. That is your best diet or best way of eating. We have trying a variety of beneficial cultural foods for sure, finding balances. Nice. All right, and finally, as a takeaway, what is one thing that you can do today, literally today, to help you get to that point of having a healthy relationship with food? Try a new recipe. Sweet potatoes and peanut butter. It's one that you can try. Stop being so hard on myself. Be kind to myself. Yes. Find some compassion. And one thing that really helped me with that is to just write down what food is, doing for me, how it's benefiting me. Track what I eat and look for patterns. That can be beneficial, and not always tracking doesn't have to be specific. It can just be general, what you had, and really focusing on how you're feeling. Were you energized? How did you feel mentally, emotionally? New air fry recipes. I love the air fryer. Still, though, with the air fryer, remember to add fat. So, fat is really important for hormone development, for making our skin and our hair nice and healthy. It's also really important for certain vitamin and mineral absorption. Add in more whole foods and less processed foods. Yes. And do it in a way that's fun. So one of my favorite examples is if, say you love Fruit Loops for breakfast. Say that's your go-to breakfast. If you would like to make that a little bit healthier, try first by reducing some of the Fruit Loops, adding some fruit or berries, and having that with your milk. The next day, try it with Greek yogurt, a bit of Fruit Loops, and then some fruit. And then slowly reduce the amount of Fruit Loops that you're using and increase the amount of fruits. Maybe add some peanut butter or a drizzle of honey, something like that to make it tasty. But whenever you're making that switch from processed to whole foods, do it in a nice gradual way. Learn a new recipe, be more mindful at dinner, so kind of undistracted eating. Eating slower to savor it. Try a self-compassion exercise or meditation. Disconnect food from my emotions. Those are all lovely answers. Great ways to get started too. All right, so this is the end of the session today. I know we went about a minute over, so I apologize for that, but thank you everybody for interacting, for doing all of these, for inputting all of your amazing answers. In the chat, I am just going to pop my email there. That way, if you do have any questions, you can certainly ask me those questions, and I will do my best to get back to you. So if you do have any questions after this, just let me know, and I will do my best. And thank you for having me today, and I hope you all enjoyed the session.
Thank you so much, Kenzie. We really appreciate your presentation, for sharing your personal story and focusing on compassion. For anyone who is looking for new recipes, our next session will be a cooking class on quick, easy, and healthy meal prep tomorrow from 6 to 7 p.m. If you haven't had a chance to fill in our survey for prizes, the QR code is back on the screen, and the link went back in the chat. Thank you again for joining us, and we hope to see everyone really soon.